When desperation meets opportunity, can a fake marriage become something real? Watch this complete emotional roller coaster as Natalie Harper, a 27-year-old heiress on the brink of losing her family's hotel empire, enters into a shocking business arrangement with billionaire Ryan Castellano. What starts as a cold contract marriage to save her legacy becomes a dangerous game of hearts, betrayal, and impossible choices. Hey there, romance lovers! Tonight we dive into a world where every choice has a cost and every moment matters.
Ow.
We step into it. The numbers on the screen blurred through Natalie Harper's unshed tears. 43 million in debt. 6 weeks until foreclosure. 3 generations of family legacy crumbling like ancient parchment in her trembling hands. The mahogany desk that once belonged to her. Grandfather felt cold beneath her palms as she pressed them flat against its surface, fighting for composure. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Harper Grand Hotel's executive office, Manhattan pulsed with life, oblivious to her dying world. "Natalie, sweetheart." Her father's voice crackled through the speakerphone from his hospital bed in Switzerland. "Weak and defeated. You have maybe 6 weeks before the banks foreclose. I should never have let pride keep me from selling when we had the chance." She closed her eyes, breathing in the familiar scent of leather and old money that it always meant. Safety. "There has to be another way, Dad. Some investor, some loan, something." "I'm afraid not, Princess. Unless a miracle walks through that door in the next few days, we're finished." The line went dead, leaving her alone in the cavernous office that had witnessed 3 generations of Harper triumphs and failures. At 27, Harvard Business School graduate, heir to a hospitality empire. She was about to become the Harper who lost it all. Her assistant's soft knock interrupted the silence. "Miss Harper, there's a gentleman here to see you. Says it's urgent business regarding your hotels." Natalie straightened her navy blazer, checked her reflection in the antique mirror, and forced steel into her voice, even facing financial ruin. A Harper never looked less than impeccable. "Send him in, please." The man who walked through her door made the air shift in the room. Ryan Castellano moved with the predatory grace of someone who owned half the world and was actively acquiring the other half. His charcoal suit was perfectly tailored to his tall, athletic frame, and his dark hair caught the afternoon light streaming through her windows. But it was his piercing blue eyes that held her captive, calculating and intense as they swept over her office, before settling on her face with uncomfortable precision. "Miss Harper." His deep voice carried just a hint of his Italian heritage, smooth as aged whiskey. "I believe we have something to discuss." Ryan had done his research thoroughly. Natalie Harper was 27, unmarried, and desperate. Her hotel chain was bleeding money faster than a severed artery, and she had no family left to bail her out. Most importantly, she was beautiful, intelligent, and carried herself with the kind of old money elegance that would impress the conservative Japanese investors he needed to secure his latest acquisition. "Mr. Castellano," she stood and extended her hand with practiced grace. "I wasn't expecting you, but please have a seat." Her handshake was firm, professional, but he noticed the slight tremor in her fingers. Fear, probably. Or maybe she was one of those women who got nervous around powerful men. Either way, it would work to his advantage. "Actually, Miss Harper, I believe I can help you." He settled into the leather chair across from her desk, noting how she unconsciously leaned forward. When he mentioned help, "I'm aware of your current financial situation." Her composure slipped for just a moment, a flash of vulnerability crossing her features before the professional mask slammed back into place. "I'm not sure what you mean." "I mean that you're approximately 43 million in debt, your primary. Investors have pulled out, and you have roughly 6 weeks before your creditors force you into bankruptcy." He delivered the information with clinical precision. Watching as each word landed like a physical blow, Natalie's hands clenched into fists on her desk. "If you came here to gloat about my family's misfortune, or to make a lowball offer for our properties, you can save us both some time and leave now." Ryan smiled. He admired her spirit, even in the face of complete financial destruction. "On the contrary, I'm here to offer you a solution. It's rather unconventional, but a solution nonetheless." She raised an eyebrow, her green eyes flashing with a mixture of hope and suspicion. "I'm listening. I need a wife, Miss Harper. Not for love, not for companionship, but for business. There's a deal I'm pursuing with a very traditional Japanese corporation, and they place enormous value on family stability. A married man with an established, respectable wife would have a significant advantage in securing their partnership." The silence that followed was so complete that Ryan could hear the distant sounds of traffic from the street below. Natalie stared at him as if he had just suggested they rob a bank together. "You want to marry me?" she said slowly, as if testing the words. "For business? I want to enter into a mutually beneficial contract that happens to involve marriage. You'll get enough money to save your hotels and restore your family's legacy. I get a wife who looks perfect on paper and won't make emotional demands on my time or attention." Natalie felt as though she had stepped into an alternate reality where billionaire strangers proposed marriage like business deals. She studied Ryan's face, looking for any sign that this was an elaborate joke, but his expression remained serious and expectant. "Let me make sure I understand," she said carefully. "You want to marry me to impress some Japanese investors, and in return, you'll pay off my debts. I'll pay off your debts, provide you with a generous monthly allowance, and ensure that your hotels not only survive but thrive under my business umbrella. After 2 years, we divorced amicably, and you keep everything." The offer was like a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman, but Natalie forced herself to think rationally, despite the desperate hope blooming in her chest. "And what exactly would this marriage entail? I assume you're not suggesting we live together as a happy couple. We would maintain separate residences, but make public appearances together as needed. Charity events, business dinners, the occasional weekend getaway for the sake of our image. Nothing more intimate than what any business partnership requires. No physical relationship." The question slipped out before she could stop it, and she felt heat creep up her neck. Ryan's eyes darkened slightly. "That would be entirely up to us, but it wouldn't be required by the contract. This is business, Miss Harper, not a romance novel." She stood and walked to the window, needing distance from his overwhelming presence to think clearly. The city stretched out below her, millions of people going about their lives without knowing that hers hung in the balance of this impossible conversation. "I need details," she said without turning around. "I need to see exactly what you're proposing before I can even consider it." Of course. She heard him move behind her, then he was standing close enough that she could smell his cologne, expensive and masculine. "My lawyers will have a contract drawn up by tomorrow. We can meet here to review the terms." Natalie turned to face him, surprised by how close he was standing. His height forced her to tilt her head back to meet his eyes, and for a moment she felt overwhelmed by his physical presence. "If I say no, then I wish you the best of luck with your creditors." His tone was matter-of-fact, but she caught something else in his expression, a flicker of interest that had nothing to do with business. "You could have any woman in the city," she said, "models, actresses, socialites who would jump at the chance. To marry a billionaire, someone who actually wants this kind of arrangement?" Ryan stepped closer, close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his blue eyes. "But none of them have what I need, Miss Harper. Class, intelligence, family reputation, and most importantly, no romantic illusions about what this would be. You're perfect for my purposes." The way he said perfect sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. Natalie struggled to maintain her professional composure, but something about Ryan Castellano made her feel off balance in a way that had nothing to do with his business proposal. "I'll review your contract," she heard herself saying, "but I'm not making any promises." Ryan smiled, and for the first time since he had entered her office, the expression seemed genuinely warm. "I wouldn't expect anything less from a Harper." Evening, Natalie sat in her apartment overlooking Central Park, a glass of wine in her hand and Ryan's business card on the coffee table before her. The space felt too quiet, too empty, filled with antique furniture and family photographs that reminded her of everything she was about to lose. She picked up her phone and dialed her best friend Rebecca, needing to talk through the impossible situation with someone who knew her well enough to offer honest advice. "He wants to what?" Rebecca's voice pitched higher with each word. Nat, please tell me you're not seriously considering marrying a complete stranger. He's not a complete stranger. He's Ryan Castellano, the tech mogul. You've seen him on magazine covers. I've seen serial killers on magazine covers too. Doesn't mean I want to marry them. Rebecca's tone was half joking, but Natalie could hear the genuine concern underneath. This is insane, even by your standards. Is it more insane than losing everything my family worked for? Is it more insane than declaring bankruptcy and watching creditors auction off my grandfather's life work? A long pause. Okay, I can hear how desperate you are, but marriage, Nat, even a fake one, that's a huge step. It's a business contract with some legal paperwork attached. 2 years of occasional dinner parties and charity galas, and I save the hotels. When it's over, I'll be financially secure enough to rebuild properly. And what if you develop feelings for him? Or what if he expects more than you're willing to give? The question hit closer to home than Natalie wanted to admit. There had been something in Ryan's eyes when he looked at her. Something that suggested their arrangement might not stay purely professional as easily as he claimed when her phone rang at midnight. She wasn't surprised to see Ryan's number on the display. Having second thoughts, Miss Harper? His voice was warm through the phone, more intimate than it had been in her office. Are you? She countered, a low chuckle. I don't have second thoughts about business decisions. I research thoroughly and commit completely, and that's all this is to you. A business decision? Another pause? Longer this time? What else would it be? Something in his tone suggested the question was more complicated than he was willing to admit, but Natalie was too tired and too overwhelmed to analyze the subtle implications. I'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Castellano. We have a contract to review. But as she hung up the phone, Natalie couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to sign away more than just 2 years of her life. The marriage ceremony took place in a small chapel overlooking the Hudson River, witnessed only by their lawyers, and a photographer hired to document their union for the Japanese investors. Natalie wore a simple, cream-colored dress that hugged her curves elegantly, while Ryan looked devastatingly handsome in his navy suit as they exchanged rings. She couldn't shake the feeling that this felt more real than any contract had a right to feel. You may kiss the bride, the officiant announced. Ryan hesitated for just a moment, his blue eyes searching hers. When he leaned in, Natalie expected a brief, perfunctory kiss for the camera. Instead, his lips lingered against hers, soft and warm, sending unexpected electricity through her entire body. When they broke apart, both looked genuinely surprised by the intensity of that simple touch. For the photos, Ryan murmured, but his voice was rougher than usual. Of course, Natalie whispered back, though her heart was racing in a way that had nothing to do with business arrangements. 3 weeks into their marriage, it settled into a routine of careful politeness. Ryan had purchased a penthouse apartment for Natalie in the same building as his own, just 2 floors down. They shared morning coffee on the days when they both happened to be in the kitchen at the same time, maintained separate social calendars, and met only for the business functions that required their presence as a married couple. It should have been perfect. It should have been exactly what they both wanted, but Natalie found herself looking forward to those chance encounters in the elevator, to the way Ryan's face softened when he saw her first thing in the morning, to the warmth of his hand on the small of her back when he guided her through crowded rooms at social events. The Metropolitan Museum's annual charity gala was their first major public appearance as husband and wife. Natalie spent hours getting ready, choosing a stunning emerald green gown that brought out her eyes, and hiring a professional to style her hair in an elegant updo. When Ryan knocked on her door at 7 o'clock, his sharp intake of breath told her that her efforts had been worth it. You look incredible, he said, his eyes traveling over her with an appreciation that made her skin warm. Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself? She adjusted his bow tie with steady fingers, trying to ignore the way his cologne made her want to lean closer. The gala was a glittering affair, filled with Manhattan's elite. As they moved through the crowd, Natalie was acutely aware of how perfectly they fit together. How naturally Ryan's arm curved around her waist, how easily they fell into the rhythm of couple conversation with strangers, Mrs. Castellano and Older woman with diamonds dripping from her ears approached them near the bar. You make such a beautiful couple. How long have you been married? 3 weeks, Natalie replied, smiling warmly. We had a small ceremony. Very intimate. How romantic. And how did you two meet? Natalie felt Ryan's hand tighten slightly on her hip. They had prepared for this question, but somehow standing. They're under the ballroom's crystal chandeliers. The rehearsed story felt inadequate. Ryan literally walked into my office and changed my life, she said, the truth disguised as romance. Love at first sight? Something like that, Ryan interjected, his voice low and intimate. I knew she was special the moment I saw her. The way he said it, looking directly into her eyes, made Natalie's breath catch. For a moment, she almost believed him. Later, as they danced to a slow jazz standard, Natalie found herself relaxing into Ryan's embrace. He was an excellent dancer, leading her confidently across the floor while maintaining the perfect distance between their bodies. We're good at this, she murmured, her hand resting on his shoulder. At what? Dancing? At pretending to be married? Something flickered across Ryan's face. Is that what we're doing? Pretending? The question hung in the air between them, loaded with implications neither seemed ready to explore. Before Natalie could respond, her phone buzzed with an urgent text from her father's doctor. Her face went pale as she read the message. What is it? Ryan asked, immediately alert to her distress. It's my dad. There have been complications with his surgery. I need to get to Switzerland, tonight, without hesitation. Ryan guided her off the dance floor. My jet is at Teterboro. We can be wheels up in 2 hours. This isn't part of our agreement, Ryan. You don't have to. You're my wife, he interrupted, something fierce in his voice. Of course I'm coming with you. The flight to Switzerland passed in a blur of worried silence and careful conversations. Ryan worked on his laptop while Natalie stared out the window at the dark Atlantic, trying not to think about what she might find when they arrived at the hospital. He's going to be okay, Ryan said quietly, closing his computer and moving to. Sit beside her, you don't know that. No, but I know you. And I know you're strong enough to handle whatever happens. His unexpected gentleness undid something in her chest. Without thinking, she leaned against his shoulder, seeking comfort in his solid presence. To her surprise, his arm came around her immediately, holding her close. Thank you, she whispered, for coming with me, all of this. You don't have to thank me, Natalie. The way he said her name, soft and careful, made her realize that somewhere in the past 3 weeks, this had stopped being just business for both of them. At the hospital in Zurich, Natalie's father was weak, but stable after emergency surgery. When he saw Ryan standing beside his daughter's bedside, his eyes filled with confused recognition. You're the tech mogul, he said weakly, from the magazines. Dad, this is Ryan, my husband, the word felt. Strange and natural at the same time, her father's eyes widened. Husband, and did you recently? Natalie said, taking her father's hand. We kept it small, quiet. You married her to save the hotels, her father said directly to Ryan, his voice gaining strength, didn't you? The directness of the question caught both Ryan and Natalie off guard. In the sterile hospital room, surrounded by the beeping of machines and the smell of antiseptic. Their carefully constructed story felt flimsy. Dad, Natalie began. It's okay, sweetheart.
Ow.
I'm not stupid. No billionaire marries a woman whose family is drowning in debt without a reason. Her father studied Ryan with sharp eyes. The question is, what happens when you get what you need from this arrangement? What happens to my daughter then? Ryan met the older man's gaze steadily. I would never hurt Natalie, sir. Whatever our arrangement, she will always be protected. Arrangements have a way of becoming complicated when hearts get involved. Later that night, in their adjoining hotel rooms, Natalie knocked on the connecting door between their suites. When Ryan answered, she was struck by how different he looked in just a t-shirt and jeans. His hair mussed and his usual armor of perfect tailoring stripped away. How is he? Ryan asked. Better. The doctors say he'll make a full recovery. She hesitated in the doorway, suddenly uncertain. Ryan, what my father said about hearts getting involved? Natalie. His voice held a warning. I know this is supposed to be business, but what happened today, the way you took care of me, came with me without question. ... double quotes. She took a breath. Felt like what a real husband would do. Ryan stepped closer. Close enough that she could see the conflict. In his eyes, it was real. What I feel for you, it's real. But that doesn't change our agreement, doesn't it? For a moment, she thought he might kiss her. The air between them crackled with possibility, with all the careful boundaries they had drawn beginning to blur. Instead, he stepped back. We should get some sleep. You fly back tomorrow, and I have meetings with the Japanese investors next week. This is why I married you, Natalie, to close that deal. Nothing has changed. But as she returned to her room, Natalie couldn't help but feel that everything had changed. The man who had held her while she cried, who had dropped everything to fly across an ocean with her, who looked at her like she was precious rather than convenient. That man was not the cold businessman who had proposed a contract marriage in her office, and the woman who found herself caring what happened to him, who had felt safe in his arms, who was beginning to imagine what it might be like to be loved by him. That woman was definitely not the desperate heiress who had signed a 2-year agreement to save her family's legacy as she lay in bed that night. Listening to the sounds of Ryan moving around in the next room, Natalie realized that her father had been right about one thing. Arrangements had a way of becoming very complicated when hearts got involved, and her heart was definitely getting mad. Involved 6 months into their marriage, the lines between business and reality had blurred beyond recognition. Ryan found himself calling Natalie just to hear her voice, and she had started leaving coffee prepared for him when she knew he'd had late meetings. They attended fewer obligatory functions and more events they actually enjoyed together. The night everything changed started like any other evening. They were having dinner at a small Italian restaurant Ryan had discovered in Little Italy. The kind of place with checkered tablecloths and candles and wine bottles that felt a world away from their usual high society haunts. The Tanaka deal is almost finalized, Ryan said, twirling pasta around his fork. Another 2 weeks and I'll have everything I need from Yoshida Corporation. Natalie's fork paused halfway to her mouth. And then I'll be the largest technology contractor in the Asian market. Everything I've worked for will finally be in place. I meant. And then what happens to us? The question hung between them like a challenge. They had been so careful not to discuss the end date of their arrangement, so focused on the present that the future had become a forbidden topic. Ryan set down his fork, his blue eyes serious. We agreed on 2 years, Natalie. A lot has changed since we made that agreement. Has it? She leaned forward, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. You tell me, Ryan, has it changed for you? Before he could answer, her phone rang. The caller ID showed her father's number, and despite the late hour, she answered immediately. Natalie, sweetheart? Her father's voice was tight with panic. I need you to come to the hotel. Now. There's been an incident. 20 minutes later, they stood in the lobby of the flagship Harper Grand Hotel, watching fire trucks and police cars pull away from the building. A kitchen fire had been contained quickly, but the smoke and water damage to the restaurant and several guest floors was extensive. The insurance will cover most of it, Natalie's hotel manager explained. But we'll need to close for at least 6 weeks for repairs, maybe longer. Natalie sank into one of the lobby chairs, the weight of another crisis settling on her shoulders. 6 weeks of no revenue? We can't survive that. We'll figure it out, Ryan said immediately. I can cover the shortfall. No. Her voice was firm. That wasn't part of our agreement. You've already done enough. Natalie, I said no, Ryan. This is my family's problem, not yours. But even as she said it, she could see him already making calculations, already figuring out how to fix this for her. The realization that he would always try to save her, that he cared enough to want to hit her like a physical blow. Later that night, back in their building, Natalie knocked on Ryan's door. When he answered, she walked past him into his apartment. Without invitation, needing to say what was on her mind before she lost her courage. We need to talk about what's happening between us. Ryan closed the door and leaned against it, his posture guarded. What about it? This isn't business anymore. It hasn't been for months. Natalie, let me finish. She turned to face him, her green eyes blazing. I know you feel something for me. I see it in the way you look at me, the way you took care of me in Switzerland, the way you immediately offered to help tonight even though it wasn't your responsibility. Feeling something and acting on it are two different things. Why can't we act on it? Why can't this be real? Ryan pushed off from the door, running his hands through his hair in frustration. Because I'm not a good man, Natalie. Because you deserve someone who can love you the way you should be loved, and I don't know how to do that. That's not true. I married you for a business deal. I've built my entire life around control and acquisition and never letting anyone close enough to hurt me. What kind of foundation is that for a real relationship? Natalie stepped closer, close enough to touch him. The kind of foundation that two people who care about each other can build on together. For a moment, she thought she had gotten through. To him, his eyes softened, and he reached out to touch her face with gentle fingers. Then his phone rang. The caller ID showed a number she didn't recognize, but Ryan's entire body went rigid when he saw it. He answered without greeting, "Yes, Natalie." Watched his face change as he listened to whoever was on the other end. His expression went from guarded to cold to something that looked almost like fear. "I understand. Yes, I'll handle it." He hung up and stood there for a long moment, not looking at her. Ryan. What was that about? Nothing. Just business. Could tell he was lying. There was something in his posture, in the way he couldn't meet her eyes, that set off every alarm bell in her head. Don't lie to me. Not now, after everything we've just said to each other. Ryan walked to the window, staring out at the city lights. There are things about my life, about how I do business, that you don't know. Things I've kept from you, to protect you. What kind of things? The kind that could destroy everything you care about if they came to light. Natalie felt a chill run down her spine. "Ryan, what are you talking about?" He turned to face her, and she was shocked by the pain in his eyes. The call was from someone who has information about certain business practices of mine. Practices that, if they became public, would not only destroy me, but would take you and your hotels down with me. What practices? The less you know, the better. That's not good enough. We're married, Ryan, really or not. We're in this together. No, we're not. His voice was sharp now, cutting. That's exactly the problem. You think this is some fairy tale where love conquers all, but this is the real world. In the real world, people like me make deals with the devil, and eventually, the bill comes due. People like you? People who will do anything to win, anything to get what they want. The way he said it, with such self-loathing, broke her heart. Ryan, whatever you've done, you don't understand. The Japanese deal, the reason I needed a respectable wife in the first place, it's not just about technology contracts. Yoshida Corporation is a front for some very powerful, very dangerous people. People who don't forgive and don't forget. Natalie felt the world tilt around her. You're saying you knowingly got involved with criminals? I'm saying I did what I had to do to build my empire. And now that empire and everyone connected to it is at risk, including me, especially you. The silence that followed was deafening. Natalie felt like she was seeing Ryan clearly for the first time, and what she saw was a man who had made choices that put them both in danger. The person who called, she said slowly, "They're threatening you. They're threatening us, you specifically. They know that hurting you is the fastest way to control me." "So what do we do?" Ryan's laugh was bitter and hollow. "There's no we, Natalie. There never really was. This was always temporary, remember? A business arrangement with an expiration date. That's not true, and you know it, isn't it? Everything. You think you feel for me is built on a lie? You fell in love with a version of me that I showed you, not the man I really am." "I fell in love with you," she said fiercely. "All of you, the good and the bad and everything in between. Fell in love with an illusion. Stop it. Stop pushing me away because you're scared." "I'm not scared. I'm realistic." Sends badly. Natalie, for both of us. The only question is how much damage we do to each other before it's over. She stared at him, this man she had married as a stranger and grown to love as her best friend and partner, and realized that he was already pulling away from her, already building walls to protect them both from what was coming. "So that's it? You're just going to shut me out? I'm going to keep you safe. Even if that means keeping you at a distance. I don't want to be safe, Ryan. I want to be with you." Whatever comes next, we face it together. For a moment, his mask slipped, and she saw the man who had held her while she cried, who had flown across an ocean without question, who looked at her like she was the most precious thing in his world. Then the mask slammed back into place. Go. Home, Natalie. Go back to your apartment and forget about this conversation. Forget about whatever you think this is between us. I won't do that. Then you're more foolish than I thought. The words were designed to hurt, and they did. Natalie felt tears sting her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Fine. If that's how you want to play this, fine. But don't expect me to pretend I don't. See what you're doing? You're running away because you're terrified of being happy. I'm protecting you. You're protecting yourself. She turned and walked toward the door, then stopped with her hand on the handle. When you're ready to stop being a coward and fight for something real, you know where to find me. But I won't wait forever, Ryan, and I won't let you destroy what we have because you're afraid it might end badly. As she closed the door behind her, Natalie heard something crash against the wall. She paused in the hallway, tears finally spilling over, and realized that she was about to lose the only man she had ever truly loved. And the worst part was, she wasn't sure if she was losing him to outside forces or to his own fear of letting anyone close enough to matter. For 3 days, Natalie and Ryan existed in the same building like polite strangers. They passed each other in the lobby with cold nods, shared elevator rides in suffocating silence, and pretended that their world hadn't imploded in his living room. Natalie threw herself into managing the hotel repairs, working 18-hour days to avoid thinking about the hollow ache in her chest. But late at night, she could hear Ryan pacing in the apartment above hers, and she knew he was sleeping as poorly as she was. On Thursday morning, everything changed again. Natalie was reviewing contractor estimates when her assistant rushed into her office, face pale with panic. "Miss Harper, there are FBI agents here. They want to speak with you about your husband." The federal agents were crisp and professional, their badges gleaming under the office lights as they settled into the chairs across from her desk. Mrs. Castellano, the lead agent, a sharp-eyed woman named Detective Martinez, began.
We need
To ask you some questions about your husband's business dealings, specifically his recent contracts with Yoshida Corporation. Natalie's blood ran cold. I'm not sure what you mean. We have reason to believe that Mr. Castellano has been knowingly facilitating money laundering operations through his technology contracts. Yoshida Corporation is a front for the Yamamoto crime family. Your husband has been helping them move illegal funds through legitimate business channels. The room seemed to tilt around her. That's impossible, is it? Tell me, Mrs. Castellano, how much do you know about how your husband conducts his business? We keep our professional lives separate. Agent Martinez leaned forward. Even though he paid off your family's debts, even though his business success directly benefits your hotel empire, you expect us to believe you know nothing about how he makes his money? It's true. We have financial records showing that money from known criminal enterprises has been funneled through your hotel accounts, Mrs. Castellano. Money that came from your husband's business dealings. Natalie felt sick. I had no knowledge of any illegal activity? Perhaps not. But your husband did. And now we need your help to bring him to justice. My help? We want you to wear a wire. Get him to confess to his involvement with the Yamamoto family. Help us build a case that will put both him and his criminal associates behind bars. You're asking me to betray my husband? We're asking you to do the right thing? Unless, of course, you're more involved in his criminal activities than you're admitting. The threat was clear. Cooperate or become a target of the investigation herself. I need time to think. You have 24 hours, Mrs. Castellano. After that, we move forward with or without your cooperation. And I should warn you, your husband is more dangerous than you know. These people he's involved with, they don't hesitate to eliminate problems, even problems they're married to. After the agents left, Natalie sat in her office staring at the business card Agent Martinez had left behind. The woman she had been 6 months ago. The desperate heiress who had married a stranger to save her family's legacy, would have done whatever it took to protect herself. But the woman she had become, the woman who had fallen in love with Ryan, Castellano, despite his warnings and walls and secrets, couldn't imagine betraying him, even if he had been lying to her from the beginning. That evening, she found herself standing outside Ryan's door, The wire the FBI had given her burning like acid against her skin, where it was taped beneath her blouse. She had agreed to their plan, but only because she needed to hear the truth from Ryan himself. When he opened the door, his eyes were hollow with exhaustion and something that looked like grief. "Natalie, you shouldn't be here. We need to talk." "I told you the FBI came to see me today, Ryan. They know about Yoshida Corporation. They know about the money laundering." All the color drained from his face. He stepped back, letting her into the apartment, and she could see his hands shaking as he closed the door. "What did you tell them? That I knew nothing about your illegal activities?" Which was true until about 6 hours ago. Ryan sank into a chair, suddenly looking older than his 32 years. "I tried to protect you from this. By lying to me? By using my hotels to clean dirty money without my knowledge? I never wanted you involved. The hotel accounts, that was them, not me. They wanted to ensure I had leverage over you, insurance that you wouldn't become a problem. So you let them make me an accessory to federal crimes. I was trying to find a way out. For both of us." Natalie sat across from him, the wire recording every word, her heart breaking with each admission. "Tell me the truth, Ryan. All of it. From the beginning?" "The truth is that I've been working with the Yamamoto family for 3 years. Not by choice initially. They had information about my early business practices, things that weren't exactly legal but weren't unusual in the tech world. They offered me a deal. Work with them. Help them move money through legitimate channels, and they'd make me rich beyond imagination. Refuse, and they'd destroy my company, and probably me along with it. So you agreed?" I agreed. And I told myself. It was just business, that I could handle it, control it. Use them as much as they were using me. And then you needed a wife for respectability. And then I met you. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper, and everything became complicated. "Because you fell in love with me?" Because I realized that loving you meant putting you in danger. The Yamamoto family doesn't just let people walk away, Natalie. They own me. And now, because I was selfish enough to marry you, they own you too. The raw pain in his voice made her want to comfort him, but she forced herself to remember why she was there. "The FBI wants me to help them build a case against you." Ryan's head snapped up, his blue eyes sharp with fear. "And I told them I would." The silence that followed was deafening. Ryan stared at her as if she had physically struck him, betrayal and hurt warring in his expression. "I see. Do you really see, Ryan? Because I don't think you understand what's happening here. I understand that my wife is working with federal agents to put me in prison. I understand that the man I love has been lying to me from the moment we met, that every kiss, every tender moment, every time you made me believe this was real, was built on a foundation of lies and criminal activity.
Ow.
Not everything was a lie. How can I tell the difference? How can I trust anything you've ever said to me?" Ryan stood and walked to the window, his shoulders rigid with tension. "You can't. That's the point. That's why this was always going to end badly. It doesn't have to end badly. We could find a way. There is no way, Natalie. Don't you understand? Even if I cooperate with the FBI, even if I testify against the Yamamoto family, they will never stop hunting me, hunting us. Is that the life you want? Always looking over your shoulder, always waiting for them to find us? It's better than the alternative, which is watching you disappear into their world completely. Someone I don't recognize. Maybe that's who I really am. Maybe the man you fell in love with never existed in the first place." Natalie stood and walked to him, placing her hand on his shoulder. I threw the wire. She knew the agents were hearing every word, but she didn't care anymore. The man I fell in love with exists. He's the man who held me while I cried about my father. He's the man who flew to Switzerland without question because I needed him. He's the man who's standing here breaking his own heart because he thinks it will keep me safe. Ryan turned to face her, and she was shocked to see tears in his eyes. "I love you, Natalie, more than I've ever loved anything in my life. Which is exactly why I have to let you go. You don't get to make that choice for both of us. I already have." Before she could ask what he meant, Ryan's phone rang. The same unknown number from 3 nights ago. This time he put it on speaker. "Mr. Castellano." A smooth voice said, I trust you've had time to consider our conversation. I have. And your decision? Ryan looked directly at Natalie as he spoke. I'll give you what you want, but I have conditions. You're hardly in a position to make demands. My wife remains untouched. Completely untouched. She walks away from all of this clean. That depends. On how cooperative you are, I'll be very cooperative. I'll give you everything. Access to all my accounts, all my legitimate business contacts, complete control of my companies. In exchange, my wife disappears. New identity, new life, far away from here. Ryan, no, Natalie started, but he held up a hand to silence her. Do we have a deal? Ryan asked. We have a deal. You have 24 hours to make the arrangements. Line went dead, and Natalie stared at Ryan in horror. You just traded your life for mine. I traded my freedom for your safety. There's a difference. I won't let you do this. It's already done. Tomorrow, you'll receive a new passport, travel documents, and access to an account with enough money to start over anywhere in the world. You'll disappear, and I'll make sure they never find you. And what about you? I'll give them what they want, and hope that's enough to keep them satisfied. Natalie felt the weight of the wire against her skin, the knowledge that the FBI was hearing Ryan's confession, his plan to sacrifice himself for her. In that moment, she made a choice that surprised even her. She reached under her blouse and ripped the wire free, throwing the small device on the floor and crushing it under her heel. Natalie, what are you doing? I'm choosing you. I'm choosing us. Whatever comes next, we face it together. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand perfectly. You think I'm going to run away and let you destroy yourself to save me? You think I'm going to let you disappear into their world without a fight? It's the only way. It's not the only way. There's another option, which is... Natalie pulled out Agent Martinez's card. We give the FBI everything. Your records, your contacts, everything you know about the Yamamoto family's operations. And then we disappear together. New identities, witness protection, a real chance to start over. Never stop looking for us. Maybe not. But at least we'll be together. And at least we'll be fighting back instead of rolling over and letting them win. Ryan stared at the FBI card in her hand, then looked into her eyes. You're willing to give up everything? Your hotels, your family name, your entire life? Willing to give up everything except you. For a long moment, they stood there in his apartment, the city lights twinkling beyond the windows. Both of them balanced on the edge of a decision that would change everything. We do this, Ryan said. Slowly, there's no going back. Once we become federal witnesses against the Yamamoto family, we'll be targets for the rest of our lives. Then we'd better make sure the rest of our lives are worth fighting for. Ryan cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away tears she didn't realize were falling. Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure this is what you want?
I never
Been more sure of anything in my life. When he kissed her this time, it wasn't for cameras or contracts or business arrangements. It was a promise, a commitment to face whatever came next together. But even as Natalie melted into his embrace, even as she felt hope blooming in her chest for the first time in days, she couldn't shake the feeling that their real test was still ahead of them. The FBI safe house in upstate New York felt like a prison, even though Natalie knew it was supposed to be sanctuary. For 2 weeks, she and Ryan had been preparing for their testimony against the Yamamoto family. It's going over financial records and criminal connections until the details blurred together in an endless stream of evidence. Agent Martinez visited daily, updating them on the investigation's progress and the mounting case against Ryan's former criminal associates. But with each passing day, the weight of what they were about to do grew heavier. The grand jury convenes Monday, Martinez announced during her morning briefing. Once you testify, there's no turning back. The Yamamoto family will know you've turned against them, and they'll mobilize every resource to find you. We understand. The risks, Ryan said, his hand finding Natalie's across the small kitchen table. Do you? Because I need to be clear about what witness protection really means. New identities, new histories, no contact with anyone from your previous lives, ever. Mrs. Castellano, that means no contact with your father, your friends, Anyone who knew you as Natalie Harper. The words hit Natalie like a physical blow. In all their planning and preparation, she had somehow managed to avoid thinking about this final sacrifice. Never seeing her father again, never talking to Rebecca, never walking through the lobby of her grandfather's hotel. How long? She whispered. Potentially forever. The Yamamoto family has a long memory and unlimited resources. Even if we arrest the major players, there will always be others who want revenge. That night, Natalie sat by the window of their shared bedroom, staring out at the dark woods that surrounded the safe house. Ryan found her there past midnight, wrapped in a blanket and lost in thought. "You're having second thoughts," he said, settling beside her on the window seat. "Aren't you? Every minute of every day? Then why are we doing this?" Ryan was quiet for a long moment, studying her profile in the moonlight. "Because the alternative is worse. Because living in fear is not living at all. Because I love you. Too much to let them use that love to control us." "I called my father today," Natalie admitted. "Before Martinez got here. Couldn't tell him the truth. So I just talked about the hotel repairs and how proud grandfather would be of the renovations." "Natalie, I know I wasn't supposed to. I know it was dangerous. Yes. But I needed to hear his voice one more time before I become someone else forever." Ryan pulled her against his chest, and she could feel his heart beating steady and strong beneath her cheek. "We don't have to do this," he said quietly. "We could still run, take our chances on our own, and spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders, never knowing if today would be the day they found us. Might be better than never seeing your family again." Natalie pulled back to look at him. "My family isn't just my father anymore. Ryan, you're my family now. You're my choice, even if that choice costs you everything else. Especially then." Sunday night, their last night before testimony, Ryan couldn't sleep. He stood in the kitchen making coffee at 3 in the morning. When Natalie found him, fully dressed and clearly planning to leave, "Where are you going? I can't let you do this, Natalie. I can't let you sacrifice your entire life for me." It's too late for that conversation." "No, it's not. I'm going to call Martinez and tell her I've changed my mind. I'll testify alone. Give them everything they need, and you go back to your life. My life includes you now. Your life includes your father, your hotels, your history, everything that makes you who you are. I can't ask you to give all that up. You're not asking. I'm choosing." Ryan set down his coffee cup and turned to face her fully. "Why? Why would you choose this? Because 6 months ago, I was drowning. My family's legacy was crumbling. I was facing bankruptcy and failure. And I had no idea how to save anything that mattered to me. Then you walked into my office and offered me a lifeline, a business arrangement, a chance to save the hotels. Yes, but also a chance to become someone I'd never been before. Someone brave enough to take risks, strong enough to fight for what she wants, smart enough to recognize love when it's standing right in front of her. Natalie, I'm not the same woman who married you for money, Ryan. You changed me, made me realize that some things are worth risking everything for. And you're worth risking everything for? Even your father? Even your family's legacy?" "Father will understand. The legacy isn't the buildings or the business. It's the Harper family tradition of fighting for what matters, of never giving up when people we love are at stake. I'm honoring that legacy by choosing you." Ryan cupped her face in his hands, his blue eyes bright with unshed tears. "I love you. It's more than I ever thought it was possible to love another person. But I'm terrified that someday you'll regret this choice. The only thing I would regret is letting you face this alone. And if the FBI can't protect us, if the Yamamoto family finds us despite new identities and witness protection, then we'll have whatever time we have together, and that will be enough." Monday morning arrived gray and cold, with the kind of autumn sky that promised winter. Their government escort prepared to take them to the courthouse. Ryan made one final phone call. "Who are you calling?" Natalie asked. "Your father." "Ryan?" "No. It's too dangerous." But he was already dialing, putting the call on speaker so she could hear. "Mr. Harper, this is Ryan Castellano. I need to tell you something about your daughter." "Ryan? Where's Natalie? Is she all right?" "She's fine, sir." "At her." "Then fine. She's the bravest, most loyal, most incredible woman I've ever known. And I want you to know that whatever happens next, whatever you hear about us in the news, she made her choices out of love. Love for you, love for the Harper family name, and love for me. I don't understand what's happening. We're going away. For a while, a long while. But I want you to know that I will spend the rest of my life making sure she's safe and happy and loved the way she deserves to be loved. Son, you're scaring me. Don't be scared. Be proud. Your daughter is saving both our lives today, and she's doing it with the kind of courage that would make her grandfather proud. Ryan, Natalie whispered, tears streaming down her face. Take care of yourself, Mr. Harper, and know that Natalie loves you more than words can express. He hung up before the older man could respond, then pulled Natalie into his arms. Thank you, she whispered against his neck. For what? For letting me say goodbye. The federal courthouse was a fortress of marble and glass, surrounded by security and filled with the weight of justice being served. As they walked through the corridors toward the grand jury room, Natalie felt the last threads connecting her to her old life finally snapping, but when Ryan squeezed her hand, when she looked into his eyes and saw their future reflected there, uncertain, but together she felt something else. Freedom. 3 hours later, they'd given the FBI everything. Every detail of Ryan's involvement with the Yamamoto family, every financial transaction, every criminal contact. The evidence they provided would be enough to bring down one of the most powerful crime families on the East Coast. As they left the courthouse under heavy security, Agent Martinez handed them each a packet of documents. Your new identities. Michael and Sarah Chen, originally from Seattle. You're a software consultant. She's a hotel management specialist. There's a small town in Oregon where you'll be relocating. Population 15,000, far enough from major cities to be safe, large enough to disappear. Natalie looked at the documents that would erase Natalie Harper from existence. What about the Harper hotels? Your father will retain ownership. The FBI has cleared the properties of any criminal connections. Your family's legacy is safe. That evening, in their last night in the safe house, Ryan and Natalie sat together on the small porch, watching the stars appear in the clear sky. You ready for this? Ryan asked. Are you? I'm ready for anything as long as you're with me. Even small-town Oregon. Even living quietly and anonymously for the rest of our lives, especially that. I've spent my entire adult life chasing power and wealth and recognition. Maybe it's time I found out what it's like to just be happy. And if you miss it, it's the excitement, the deals, the empire building. Ryan turned to look at her, his face serious. In the starlight. Natalie, you are my empire now. Everything else is just noise. Sarah, she corrected with a small smile. Sarah Chen repeated. I love you, Sarah Chen. I love you too, Michael Chen. 2 months later, in a small Oregon town surrounded by mountains and forests, Sarah Chen unlocked the door of the bed and breakfast she had just purchased with her husband Michael. It was a far cry from the Harper Grand Hotel, but as she walked through the cozy rooms with their handmade quilts and antique furniture, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Peace. Michael found her in the kitchen that evening, reviewing the guest reservations for their opening weekend. How does it feel? He asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Like home, she said, leaning back against his chest. It's like we're finally where we're supposed to be. No regrets? Only one, which is that it took us so long to get here. Outside, their kitchen windows, snow was beginning to fall, covering the mountain town in pristine white. Somewhere across the country, the FBI was preparing for trials that would put dangerous criminals behind bars. Somewhere else, her father was rebuilding the Harper hotels with the insurance money from the fire that had started this entire journey. But here, in this moment, Sarah Chen was exactly where she wanted to be, in the arms of the man she loved, building a life that was small and quiet and completely their own. Michael turned her around to face him, his blue eyes warm with contentment. Double quotes, Mrs. Chen, he said formally. Would you do me the honor of sharing a dance? There's no music, Mr. Chen. There's always music when I'm with you. As they swayed together in their kitchen, surrounded by the dreams they were building together, Sarah realized that sometimes the most extraordinary love stories were the ones that ended in the most ordinary ways, with two people choosing each other over and over again, no matter what the cost. And sometimes that was more than enough. The end.